Welcome everyone. Good afternoon. This is obviously the IMST quality improvement presentation. I think we are the last one for the whole week, so hopefully you've enjoyed it and hopefully you've kept the best till last. There's me and Ben Sewell, so I'm Adam Hanley and there's Ben Sewell doing the presentation today. Obviously, what we want to do is just show a bit of the key initiatives, who we are initially, and what we do. If you need to get in touch with IT, who do you need to get in touch with, and a little bit about what's coming up in the next year or two. So first start off, so who we are. So Nick Gillett is currently our Deputy Director of IMST. I think he's on leave today at the moment. There's myself, Adam Handley. So I've actually worked in the Trust for 11 years now, starting off as a student back in 2009. Kind of worked my way up, and I'm currently in this Assistant Deputy Director role for around about 10 months. So it's been an interesting start to the job, I would say, going through all the COVID. As you see on the slide, I currently look after the service desk, all the network and telephony, server infrastructure, and some of the cybersecurity elements. Ben?
Yeah, so I'm Ben Sewell. I've been in the Trust since around 2017. It appears longer. I've got a similar background to Adam. Started off as an apprentice and just worked up. I've done a few strange jobs in between, but my kind of background's with data, systems, networking and fixing things. And I look after the informatics, which is a posh word for health information, and architecture, which is the things and systems that it runs on. So I look after the information governance, data security and protection, our application development and interface in between systems, the data reporting and trust data sets, and the IT support, when you're stuck on an application and the training that goes with it. That's me.
And then there is also Karen Whittaker as well, who's our EPR program manager, who obviously isn't on today, but you may have spoken to her a few times, and she's running the EPR system upgrade. So I just want to move on to ways that you can actually engage with IMST. So one of the things that we have introduced, and it's been in the communications for quite a few times over the last couple of months, was the self-service portal. This is something that is really new to us, and I think it's a bit of a game changer, really. It kind of shows all the major incidents that we may have and the planned maintenance. You can add incidents, or if you've got requests, you can add them here. You can see updated incident tickets, and a lot of the forms and knowledge base information is also on there. So hopefully this will become our main portal. So if there's any information you want to know from IT, this should be within here. There's also obviously the standard ones of the phone and email that you get through to us. And we also provide an out-of-hours support. Obviously, that's been relatively busy over the COVID period. So one of the things that isn't really supported over out of hours is Insight, which is something that we might be looking to review. So a lot of the care notes and information Insight isn't supported on call. So yeah, that's something that we're going to look at. A little bit about ICT service and operations that I cover. So there's 15 members of staff in total. We have had 2 extra members of staff as part of the COVID response. One of them has now left, but we've still got one left just because of the extra increase in demand. So yes, we have the IT service desk. There's 7 members of staff in there. They've dealt with over 28,000 calls since the beginning of March, which is a hell of a lot. They are a lovely bunch. So if you've ever had the gratitude of speaking to them, they are really nice. So if you ever need any support, please give them a ring. You may need to be a little bit patient because it is taking a little bit longer as people work from home. Things are just taking longer to complete and help with. So please be a little bit patient, but we are getting there. We've got the IT infrastructure. So this team looks after all the networks and telephony. So we have over 30 network circuits across Sheffield. We have 112 call groups. That includes switchboards, GP surgeries, crisis lines, and receptions. So they're obviously really busy. And then we've got the IT operations team who look after around about 230 plus servers and systems across the trust. So the Insight hardware, that's all looked after them. JAC, Ulysses, the risk systems, they all are supported by us. And across all of them is cybersecurity. So each team has involvement in cybersecurity some way, shape or form. But it's not just IT. It's also the rest of the trust. We've all got an ownership with cybersecurity. A lot of the stuff that we do and the password policy upgrade that we've had to bring in is all because of all the people in their bedrooms with keyboards who decide to try and hack us all the time. So we're having to try and keep in front of them, just so we don't end up losing any of our patient data, which is one of our most important things. We also look at continuous improvement. So I don't know if you was listening to the day one ready presentation around about 11:45 today, but Keely was talking about the new password policy. The new starter form, that we've introduced. Keely's done a really good job with that, and that's really going to improve efficiencies for everyone in the trust and ourselves. So really looking forward to that. We're also doing the Windows 10 upgrades that you might be aware of. You've probably seen 3 contractors that we've got working on there that have been going around the trust for the last year and a half, really trying to getting all them completed in the timeframes we've got before Microsoft stopped supporting it. Moving on, so Ben, on to you.
Yeah, so I look after the informatics and architecture, which I mentioned earlier. So it's the people who make applications. We're one of the few trusts in the country that make our own software, Insight. I'll talk about Insight later, if I've got a few different ways of explaining how Insight works. We also look after the interfaces and the development of interfaces. So an example is we've got an interface between Insight and JAC, Insight and Ulysses. And then it's the informatics and information analysis. So yeah, there's quite a lot of work that goes on here. So every time we commission a new service or a data set needs to record some information, obviously the team need to deal with that. So there's 30 plus data sets which continuously need some maintenance. And then as Adam's mentioned, there's the data security and protection elements. I think it's a hacker's market at the moment. Everybody's going more digital, so that keeps us on our toes. But I think just to try and wrap up, and I think it's across both teams, our kind of purpose in IT is to make sure that we help you to improve how you do things, help you streamline processes and make sure that you can get the best out of the technology, because there's lots of tools, there's lots of different ways of doing things, but it's how we can make you more efficient and obviously try and unblock any IT barriers behind that. So should we move on to the next slide, Adam?
Yep.
Yes, I think I've covered this one, but just to add to this, we've been doing lots of work linking in with other information analysis resources in the trust. So I've been working quite closely with the business and performance managers and the data governance officers to make sure that we provide the right data at the right time to help solve some of the issues that we have in the service, and obviously try and improve service user safety overall. So there's been lots of good work with data analysis that's been going on. Okay, so you go on to the next slide, please, Adam. So from a programming perspective, just to let you know, obviously I've mentioned about Insight. I'm having a conversation with the programmers this morning saying, do you know how much stuff's in Insight? And essentially, look, there's over 200, there's over 2 million lines of code in Insight, nearly 500,000 lines of code in SharePoint. We've made a new supervision system that's 43,700 records in there, 150,000 e-forms, over 20 million scanned images. We recently made a tool which helps when we get a subject access request. It basically scans through images, it scans through Insight, it gets all documents out there. So when we were at it yesterday, when we wanted to get just one example of one service user's history, there was 18,255 pages that spanned over 50 chapters. And if we were to transport that, it would be 1.1 gigabytes. So there's lots of data going in and out of Insight. So obviously keeping our records up to date and reliable and make sure that everything works as much as possible is why we're here. Next slide, please, Adam.
1 minute when it's lets me click.
We're going to do some networking.
Yeah, I don't know why it's come up with that. All right, there we are.
Okay, so when we think about Insight, we always think, you know, it's been here quite a while, but I just thought I'd try and put Insight in a picture for you. So a lot of you might not know, or might know, that Insight's been around for quite a while. Its front end is based on Microsoft Access 2003. And I think to myself, what good car was around in 2003? You know, what type of thing would you aspire to? And the car that caught my eye was the Saab 95 Estate hot turbo version, which was, you know, it'd go very fast. It was quite a practical car. It had a big boot. It'd get you where you needed to go, and at the time it was quite reliable. So yeah, Insight, if you just think in terms of cars, if you think about an 03 fast car, that's what we're building on top of. So obviously, keeping up car maintenance depends on how long your car's going to last. Next slide, please, Adam. So just in terms of mileage, in terms of car mileage, on Insight, from May to June, we entered 145,000 notes. That's not including letters, that is just clinical notes. And obviously there's a peak there which shows the weekdays and weekends. So, you know, if you think about it, 145,000 miles in a couple of months, it's, you know, it's heavy going that on a system. Next slide, please, Adam. So, if we don't maintain Insight and we scrimp on car maintenance, here's what Insight could look like. For all the people who don't know, Saab have stopped making cars now. So if you don't, you know, if we were not to look after Insight and keep it running as much as we do, we'd probably find it quite rusty. Maybe the engine doesn't work and it'd be scrap value. So something that would have costed, you know, a list price, maybe 30 grand, it might be worth 150 quid now. So yeah, we do our best efforts to keep it up and running as much as we can. Next slide, please, Adam. So I'd like to welcome you to the A team. It's the application team. So if you've got a problem, nobody else can help. If you can find them and you can hire them, then we'll fix it for you. So what we do is we keep Insight in pristine condition. So we'll keep it running so that you can use it to obviously deliver safe care. And the team of people who look after this, who are at the top in Lego, we've got an application team manager, 3 developers, a web developer, a business analyst who looks at how to do things, followed by a contract developer. So I suppose the question, not for now but later, is, you know, how many people have had this car and is it still running? Because that's a good one. So if you think about it, we do lots of maintenance. It's probably had a couple of new engines in its time, a couple of, you know, new clutches and things. So yeah, keeping Insight up and running is one of our main priorities. Next slide, please, Adam. However, it's a bit of a balancing act. So Buckaroo's a good game as a kid. You put too much on and it books off. So yeah, we've got to be careful because the technology that we use has a finite life. So every new thing which we add into Insight, we've got to take something out. Some of the pieces that you might get in Buckaroo are not around anymore, you know, because stuff around in 2003, it's becoming more difficult. So although we try and keep Insight running and we try and keep it, you know, keep it expanding, we've got a limit. So everything that we add into Insight as a new feature, we've got to take something out. So it's a fine line between keeping it running and obviously trying not to break it. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour into Insight as a system. Can we have the next slide now, please, Adam?
Yep. So we couldn't really go through this without really talking about COVID and our response to COVID. It's only the one slide, so yeah, we just want to go through this. So we just want to show that with laptops, you know, we've built 567 laptops since the beginning of March, and send out about 400 plus headsets. Now there is a wave 2 requirements, IT requirements going out with another 100 plus laptops on there, another 300, 400 plus headsets. So we are expanding rapidly with our laptop estate, which overall in the future should make us a lot more agile. That was one of the issues that we had with COVID, that we weren't an agile workforce, and we've had to rapidly change the way that we work to meet the demand of COVID. We've implemented 40 client VPN, so this was already on the agenda for 2021 anyway, but we've had to bring that forward. So that was a quick implementation. I think the feedback's been relatively good for the new VPN solution. If you've had any issues, please let me know in the comments, and we can look at following those up. But so far so good. It's been a lot better than the previous VPN solution that we used. Teams was introduced in April, so that was a bit of a whistle stop implementation to get that up and running. As you can see, we've had 68,818 meetings individually attended in the last 180 days. So we are using that extensively. We also still have Skype for Business, which is still relatively used for standard calls and conference calls. I know Silver Command still uses Skype for Business for that for the conference call every 3 days a week. We've got the Insight remote access, so that allows you to access Insight from home on your own computer. Again, that wasn't something that we had set up due to security issues, but we were able to get that around that with something called two-factor authentication, which is a code on your phone, which allows you to get in, and it's all fully secure. Ben, you already got your remote IT system training?
Yeah. So we've had to adapt how we do training. So we've had to learn Teams as quickly as you guys as well, in order to make sure that when new starters join the trust, that we can train them as quickly as possible, and obviously take that burden away from coming in to the face-to-face training as well. I think just something else to add. We've had to replace quite rapidly the hardware that does the trust kind of text messaging. So we've sent over 231,000 service user text messages, and in the beginning of COVID, when it first started off, we sent nearly 57,886 text messages, which were staff trying to get onto the trust using the old VPN. So yeah, we've quite rapidly responded to an increase in service demand. Also, as part of changing the text message solution, we've now got some new tools now to help us do improved mail shots and letters, and we've sent just over 2,800 of those in a 3 to 4 month period. So it's been it's been quite a challenge. It's I think if I were to summarise it, it's a bit like, do you know when you go to Aldi and your trolley's not quite lined up and everything's on the conveyor belt? It seems a bit like that at the moment, but it's getting better. It's getting better as time goes on. So, okay, Adam.
Going on.
And then I think just a little whistle stop tour into so we talked about Insight, how it's made, and how we support it. There's just a handful of things that we're currently focusing on now to help with the getting back to good work. This by no means covers everything that we've got in progress, but it is just a whistle stop tour of. Obviously, we've implemented a new supervision system. We're helping. I think the news to go live meeting was today, so we're essentially keeping Insight running as much as we can. We're making the changes to make sure that we can capture data and obviously get back to good. So that's that slide covered, Adam.
What we want to do is quickly go through our roadmap for 2021-22. So hopefully you can see this spreadsheet at the moment. We won't go through every single one of them because there's quite a few on there you might not want to know about the antivirus replacement that we need to do, which is just a standard thing. But obviously you can see at the top is the new EPR system. At the moment that's in procurement. That's the only update we have on that at the moment, but obviously that will run through to 22-23. We've got the Windows 10 upgrades, which are currently ongoing. We've got the improvements to telephony, which is a CQC requirement. So in the background, we're currently looking at recommendations via a third-party supplier to make sure that's a lot more stable, and carry on improving, making the quality as good as possible for all our service users. We've got looking at the new contact center management solution. So this will be a management solution for SPA and Start to begin with, and then we might look at also rolling that out to the rest of the trust as well, depending on what happens as part of that project. But that should improve the call routing features that we have, so you can say that we are first in the queue, second in the queue, all those lovely features which would be a great improvement for our service users. We're also looking at replacing our Trust Wi-Fi. So we've had the type of solution for around about 10 years now, even though the hardware has been updated throughout that time. But we will be looking at possible replacements with companies that work with Wi-Fi as their main solution, really. So that is something that we will be looking at early next year. We'll also be looking at the increase in network circuits and resilience. So we've already done half the trust so far. So Fitzwilliam, Forest Lodge, Longley Centre, Michael Carlisle Centre, and then we'll be moving on to sites such as Edmund Road, Furs Hill. That should be early 2021. That we should get around to increasing the resilience on those sites. I think there's two there for you, Ben.
Yeah. So I've briefly talked about some of the CQC development requirements. There's a whole lot of work going on about the reporting requirements to make sure that the improvements that we're doing and the data captured in Insight, we can report on it effectively. And I know a lot of improvements have happened quite rapidly on that one. Something else which is on our radar, which we've got to be part of, is the it's called the Local Healthcare Record Exemplar, or LICRA. So essentially what that allows us to do then is that allows us to exchange data at an ICS level and a Yorkshire and Humber level. Now, it's a great piece of work, but it's heavily knitted into the new EPR program as well. So there's lots of work going on. We're essentially doing a major service on Insight next weekend, so we're probably doing its 4th or 5th engine swap. We're going to have some periods of downtime whilst we do that, which will essentially, we're going to upgrade Insight's server and database so that they're both on a supported platform. So that just gives you a snapshot of the kind of things we've been up to. I don't think it covers everything, but it's as much as we can cram into the time we've been allowed. I think that's our slides.
Yeah, I think that's it. The only one I've missed is that IT will be moving towards end, probably around about April, May next year. As part of that, we will be now moving our data center, so we will be improving resilience again and the capacity that we can and have available for all the systems that we support. So that is again happening early next year. So we've got a really busy time in IT over the next year or two. Thank you very much. Any questions or feedback is more than welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
If you've got any questions, please raise your hands. That's great. So Richard first and then Robert.
Yeah, what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be over the next year? Because you're absolutely right. You've got a lot of important stuff going on at the same time. What are you most worried about? What do you want us to be cited on as a board, really, and give you support on?
I think for me, obviously, we're aware of the EPR. That is our biggest project that we've got going for the next 3 years. I guess we've also got a lot of the transformation works to the new data center. Trying to do all that work without any downtime is going to be quite difficult. We're working on live systems, so we will try our very best to make sure that we limit downtime as much as we possibly can. There will be some, so that will have to be penciled in. But I would say they're the two that are going to be our biggest challenge over the next year. I would say, Ben, anything for you?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the piece of work that keeps us really busy is Insight, if I'm honest, because every time something changes, we have to be the supplier, the support function, the data provider. So that's the biggest challenge by far. I think the other challenge, which we're improving on constantly, is being able to help other services deliver their digital projects in the times that we have been mandated with. So we've obviously worked with the PMO quite closely to make sure that when work comes in, we can essentially give it the right resource, the right time, and put it into the right order. Because I think sometimes, although IT seems a big team, there's a lot of work going on. So it's about focusing on the right things at the right time is the challenge I can see going forward as well.
Thank you. That's helpful. And I think I should have said that, I picked up from a lot of different people how grateful the organisation is for what you've been able to do. We know you're challenged in terms of resources and staffing, and yet, you know, we have seen changes that would have been inconceivable a few months ago, and you've kept the organisation going. So I think, you know, as we look back on this, that'll be no mean feat actually. So you should all be very proud of that, and I know the board is that. But we recognise there's some big challenges going forward, especially within the site. You know, I'm glad I'm not responsible for it.
Keeps me up at night.
I know, I'm sure it really does, and it will be at night, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Robert?
Hi, thanks, Adam. Rob Nottingham here. Really good to hear about all the work you're doing and what's sort of planned in the future. And I just wanted to say as well, I know Richard's already said it, but the response to COVID has just been amazing, and clearly in an organisation where very little home working to go, you know, practically overnight to doing a lot more of that. It's been incredibly taxing for you guys, clearly. So thank you for your efforts there. My question is in terms of the Wi-Fi and network performance. Obviously, I heard about some of that coming through in the following sort of months and years. You're hoping to make improvements there. It was just something that I've definitely observed as working as part of the physical health project as part of Back to Good. It's kind of a we know obviously there's lots and lots of things we want to improve as part of physical health. There's kind of there's several overarching things, one of which is sort of network connectivity and Wi-Fi, which we sort of see as being a challenge and a sort of difficulty in terms of how we sort of funnel that into the IT team. You know, obviously if we raise an IT support ticket to say, oh, the Wi-Fi at Michael Carlisle Centre in this room is a bit dodgy, then you guys, I'm sure, would respond to that. But in terms of a more general kind of how do we improve our capacity so that we, you know, our Skype calls, our Microsoft Teams calls are hopefully as uninterrupted as possible, that we don't have too much lag there, and you know, things like that. So yeah, I guess it's just an observation that seems to be a big deal. Thank you for all the work you're doing, but if there's any way we can speed up that work, that would be amazing.
Thanks, Rob. I guess from a Wi-Fi point of view and infrastructure in general, we need to make sure the infrastructure is stable as possible. You know, if we want to build on those and have those things stable that sit on top of them, we need to make sure the foundations are stable at the beginning, and that's what we always strive to do. We want to make sure that anything that we provide and support supports you and our service users. At the end of the day, we're all here for all the service users, so we need to make sure that we provide the best we can. Wi-Fi is one of them. I think it's become more of an issue now. We've got more wireless devices out there. We did do a project around about 2 years ago to go through all the wards and make sure that they is full wireless coverage throughout, especially for our service users when we implemented the guest Wi-Fi solution. I think it's just showed that the more devices we have on the Wi-Fi solution, it's impacting it slightly, and it's kind of showing those black spots that we might have not seen before. So that will be something that we'll be going through when we look to implement the new Wi-Fi system. So thank you very much for the feedback. It was greatly appreciated, and I'll pass that on to the team as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adam.
Is there anyone else?
Richard, have you got your hand up again? Do you want to come in?
Nope.
A legacy one.
I think if there's anyone else, obviously, you know who we are. Oh, Amy.
Amy wants to come in.
Hi. I've got a sort of a bit, not necessarily a last field question, but just a thought. I just wonder if sort of as IMST, you've ever thought about sort of the sort of business partner model of working alongside sort of clinical teams. So at the moment I can see you both smiling. At the moment we're obviously split into the two care networks. I know there's sort of changes going on at the moment, but I just wondered, sort of similar to the way we have sort of HR or finance sort of business partners, if there's been thought of that, for us to have sort of IMST partners.
The house, do you want me to start, Adam? And you can.
I'll let you tell them, Ben.
Yes. So the answer is yes. There's a lot to do. So yeah, we've seen the business partner model work in in other places. It definitely works in this trust in a number of different ways. Yeah, so it's on our radar. We've obviously got the structure which we've currently got. Staff in the structure, there's plenty of work for the staff. So it's something that we've definitely thought about. If that's something that we need to take forward, great. We've got the IT director role is currently in recruitment now, so that might be something that we have discussions once that role is filled.
And obviously Raihan has also come in as the CCIO, so he's also been that little bit of a bridge between clinical and IT, which is also helping. But yeah, we've talked about the business partner role for quite a while. It would be an increased role, it would be an extra role because we can't put that into our current setup. So that is something that we will need to talk about in the future. But yeah, I totally agree, Amy. It's definitely something that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's just sort of from a sort of selfish perspective in my role as a business and performance manager, people often think I know more than I actually do in relation to IMST issues. So I'm quite often sort of fielding them off to yourselves or other colleagues. So just sort of a thought I'd had come up, but yeah, I appreciate that it's something that would take extra resource, but it's good to hear that it's been thought about, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll take that feedback, definitely. Julia?
Thank you.
Hello. I just wondered, I found this really interesting, especially the sort of second half where you've come on to talk about all the different projects that you're managing at the moment. And I just wondered if you have plans, obviously you've recorded this session, but do you have any plans to do a bit of a wider communication? Obviously you'd have to not go into too much detail, but I just think it's really easy for people in teams to just moan about IT, and I think there's a lack of understanding about all the complex projects that you've got going on at the same time. And obviously I've just made some notes to feed back to people within Start, but I think that would be kind of widely well received.
I can answer it as much as I know today. So obviously the trust is going through its business planning cycles. So obviously we've done ours in IT. I think the deadline's, is it 30th, Adam? I know it's coming up.
Yeah, end of October, I think, yeah. Yeah,
so essentially we've got some kind of, just like you have in the clinical world, we've got some drop dead deadlines which are mandated to us by, either NHS Digital, it might be public sector organisations, there's things that we have to do which are obviously well on our radar. Then there's the kind of environmental things which, Adam's talked about in terms of, Wi-Fi server upgrades and all those kind of things. So we've knitted those in already, but what we'll be doing is working with the planning teams to make sure that that your plans are knitted into ours as well. So then what we've obviously got then is a total ask, because sometimes what's happened in the past is, we try and plan for things and then we get some surprises, and we try and juggle as much as we can. So I think going through that collaborative process to make sure that our plans match your expectations, we can then hopefully get one combined plan, which if you're an outsider looking in on all the trust activity, you should be able to say, well, this task here I can't do without IT doing its task earlier, or this task might need moving forward or behind. So I think it's that's to come through the planning cycle, and yeah, I think it's once that's complete, then it's we'll start to do a lot more engagement.
I think it's that's one thing definitely, and you and I have experienced that in the last couple of weeks, haven't we, Ben?
Yeah,
but I think
absolutely.
And I think there's also just a really basic communication with staff so that they know that things like the Wi-Fi upgrades are coming and you're improving the clinic booking system, etc., etc. Just so that, because we do a lot of sort of, we know Insight is old and we know that when you add something in, you have to take something out. But I think they could really do with understanding A, that there's so much going on, and B, that there's things in the pipeline.
What I suggest then is we're still linking in with the LIA, projects and programs. So maybe we could do some sort of, workshops. We could either record something or have a few open slots where we just essentially repeat some of the key concepts here, just so everybody knows about it. Because I think sometimes there's so much going on that you forget how much work's going on, don't you? And it's, you know, I think those of you who are linking closely with IT, will know some parts of how busy we are. But I think once you start looking at all of the full scale of it, it can be scary sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, I guess we can also look at reviewing the comms that we do anyway. I think we've talked about newsletters and stuff like that before. Obviously, there's a communications team that we can feed into, so it might be something that we can provide on a monthly basis. That's something that, again, we can take back as feedback. And
I think that'd be a really good idea. Yeah.
Great. So we'll take that. Thank you. I think we're a little bit over, but if there's anyone else, any more questions at all? Don't think so. Oh, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for turning up on the Friday afternoon, and enjoy your weekend. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, both.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, both. And yeah, Ben, if you stop the recording as well.
I'm just going to press stop right
Brilliant.
now. I've never recorded anything on here, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'll have to show my skills here.